1 week ago, Australia asked for an independent team to go to Wuhan in China and find out about the origins of the coronavirus. Now they find themselves in a trade dispute with China. China are beginning to impose trade tariffs on Australia, and they are threatening with more unless Australia shuts up and complies. So where exactly is all of this gonna end up for Australia? Let's take a look at that in today's video. So this article from the Council of Foreign Relations.org reads, China's massive Belt and Road Initiative. China's colossal infrastructure investments may usher in a new era of trade and growth for economics in Asia and beyond. But skeptics worry that China is laying a debt trap for borrowing governments. And that's exactly what's going on. You see, something bigger than the first steps in a trade dispute between China and Australia is happening here. So back in 2013, President Xi of China unveiled the first steps in China's long-term plan, which is called the Belt and Road Initiative. This plan had highlighted a path for China to increase its dominance all across the world. They were to do so by buying up infrastructure directly or indirectly through companies who were in debt but had assets as infrastructure. And that's exactly what they have done. Now, the initial focus would be investments into the Asia-Pacific Sea, also into Africa and large parts of Southern and Eastern Europe. Now, though, more than 68 countries are included in the Belt and Road Initiative. I give a more detailed account of how each continent is affected differently in one of my previous videos, which I will link to up here in the top of the video. Alright, so let's take a look at this article from the Sydney Morning Herald. It reads, Where is Australia? China makes a bold play for the South Pacific's treasure islands. Chinese agents have offered MPs in the Solomon Islands $1 million or 200,000 Australian dollars in bribes to switch diplomatic allegiance from Taiwan to Beijing, according to one Solomon's politician. It comes as China is proposing up to $1 billion in infrastructure and resource extraction in what it calls an early harvest operation to extend its influence in the Pacific. Do you see a pattern here? Listen, the Belt and Road Initiative is the real reason that a bunch of these island nations within the South China Sea are now heavily in debt to China. It is also the reason why China is now beginning to expand militarily into some of these island nations that they're buying up through debt relief without anyone being able to stop them. So Australia right now is at a crossroads. You see, China has been doing these exact same tactics to Australia for the last few decades, and China is slowly but surely gaining control over Australia. That might sound a little bit like an exaggeration, but it's really not. Let's take a look at what George Christensen, a member of the House of Representatives for the last 10 years, has to say about this. He says, Australia is at a crossroads. We can keep giving in to communist China's threats, or we can stand up for our sovereignty and our economic independence. With more than 36% of our exports being sold to China, representing 7.9 GDP, it's clear we have put too many eggs in one basket. China now owns over 9.1 million hectares of our country. Farms, factories, airports, resort islands, seaports, wind farms, solar farms, and coal mines. They own more water than there is in Sydney Harbour, water that should be in the hands of Aussie farmers. Being so entangled with an authoritarian regime has left our nation open to economic blackmail and boycotts, like that mooted by China's ambassador and the actions recently against both our barley and beef exports. He goes on to say, it is time to speak up on China's economic infiltration and economic blackmail against our country. Enough is enough. We must take a stand for our national sovereignty. Luckily, some people in the news media are warning the Australian people like they should be doing.
We will always stand our ground when it comes to the things that we believe in and the values that we uphold.
Parts of the Labor Party, like Penny Wong, have understood, no, the Prime Minister is doing exactly the right thing, calling for a credible international inquiry into how this pandemic started and what we can learn to prevent future ones. I think there's been too much debate in Australia about, is it something we said? If we say it differently, will it be better? The fault here is with Beijing and the Chinese government.
We are learning right now about how many Australians have already sold out to China. I talked about this last night. Well, within 24 hours of what I told you last night, it's now becoming quite obvious that there are always going to be a lot of people, and you're not going to have to go under too many rocks to find them, who are going to choose the mighty Chinese currency over Australian values. Australian values that says that we should have an international inquiry into how a virus made it from China around the world, killing 300,000 people and costing $6 trillion.
China's economic pressure has the intent of shutting up the Australian people who are speaking out against a communistic regime. And sadly, the truth is that if these first few tariffs won't work against the Australian people, there probably will be more coming. So the Aussies need to stand up for themselves now more than ever and not give in. It would inspire a lot of other countries to do the exact same thing. Earlier, Australia led the way in denying the use of the 5G run network from China. That led other countries like the US and countries in Europe to say no also. So leadership still matters. And even though Australia counts on the US for military assistance, Australia has shown that they can take leadership on the important issues such as these for other countries to follow. Alright guys, remember to subscribe to my channel and I will make sure to keep you up to date on this very important issue. Let me know what you think about the whole thing in the comment section below and I'll make sure to reply to you. Thank you so much for watching the full video and have a great day.